She walked in wearing old sneakers and a hoodie 2 sizes too big. No makeup, no designer bag, no group of giggling friends. Just a quiet stare and a tattered backpack that looked like it had survived a war. The classroom paused, just for a second. Then the whispers started. Is she homeless? Why does she look like that? She smells like. Outside. Nobody cared that she sat alone. Nobody offered their name. By lunch, she had already been nicknamed Stray. And that's when Taylor decided she was the perfect target. Taylor was the queen of the 11th grade. Her friends followed her like shadows. Her dad donated to the school. Her mom had a nameplate on the PTA wall. And her confidence was bulletproof. So when Taylor made her move, nobody stopped her. In the middle of the cafeteria. She clapped twice and shouted, "Hey, Stray, you! Forgot to bark before you came in." The room exploded with laughter. The girl looked up once, then lowered her eyes again. Taylor grinned. It was working. Sit. Good girl. Now crawl. Someone even started filming. But the girl didn't cry. She didn't yell. She didn't even blink. She just got up, quietly, calmly, walked over to Taylor's table, and whispered something no one heard. That's when things changed. Taylor suddenly looked confused, then worried. She stood up fast, like someone had pressed rewind on her confidence. What did you just say?" The girl leaned in again, this time louder. "You made me act like a dog. Now I'll show you what I do to rats." In a blur, Taylor's chair flew. A sweeping leg hooked her ankles. The queen of the school hit the cafeteria floor like a sack of bricks. People screamed. Phones dropped. And that Stray? She didn't stop. 2 of Taylor's friends tried to intervene. One ended up with a twisted wrist. The other couldn't stand for 2 days. Security came in. But by then, it was too late. The damage was done. 3 girls were on the ground. 2 crying. 1 begging. Turns out, that Stray wasn't some random poor girl. She was a national-level jiu-jitsu competitor, trained by her veteran grandfather. She'd moved after winning a tournament in another state, one that Taylor had never even heard of. And you know the wildest part? The school didn't suspend her. The video went viral. The principal himself invited her to speak on bullying at assembly. Taylor? She was suspended. Her mom tried to pull strings. But even the school board said no. And the girl? She went back to sitting alone. Same hoodie. Same stare. Only difference? Now when she walked into a room, even the teachers stood up. After that day, the school felt different. The laughter in the hallways wasn't as loud anymore. The whispers weren't about outfits or TikTok drama. They were about her. No one even knew her name yet. They just called her that girl. As if she was something you whispered about, not someone you approached. But there was one person who couldn't leave it alone. Mr. Collins, the PE coach. He'd seen the cafeteria footage over and over again, and something about it bothered him. She's not just trained, he told the principal quietly. She moves like someone who's been in real fights, serious ones. That same week, during gym class, he called her out. Casually. "You, hoodie girl, come up." She didn't flinch. Just stepped forward. "Let's see what you got." Self-defense demonstration. Just a drill. Everyone crowded around. This was their first close-up view of her since the cafeteria scene. Taylor wasn't there. Her parents were making her go to emergency therapy. Coach Collins signaled one of the bigger boys, Deshaun, to step up. Tried to grab her from behind. He smirked. Let's see her reflexes. 1 second later, Deshaun was flat on the mat, groaning. Coach blinked. Do it again slower. Another second. Another takedown. This time she didn't even look. Like she tried. The room went silent. You could feel the tension like static in the air. Coach Collins stepped forward himself. Who trained you? My grandfather, she said softly. Military? She looked him dead in the eye. Black Ops. The coach actually stepped back. That night, word spread like wildfire. She wasn't just that girl anymore. She was a ghost story with fists, but not everyone was scared. Some were curious, especially Jesse, the quiet kid who sat behind her in English class. He wasn't popular. He didn't talk much. But after gym that day, he walked up to her in the hallway and said, "Hey, that was insane. You okay?" She looked at him for a long time before answering. "You're the first person to ask me that." They started sitting together at lunch. No talking, just sitting. And that was enough. Until one day, Jesse didn't show up and didn't show the next day either. Then she saw the bruise on his arm. When he finally returned, he brushed it off. It's nothing. But she knew better. She saw the signs. Because she'd lived them. Turns out, Jesse was being bullied too. Quietly, relentlessly, by a group Taylor had once protected, now leaderless, but still cruel. That night, she waited outside the school. She didn't bring weapons. She didn't need them. All she brought was a decision. You mess with Jesse, you answer to me. The alley behind the school was always empty by 4:30 p.m., except today. 3 boys stood there laughing, tossing Jesse's sketchbook around like a toy. They didn't hear her footsteps, but when the first one turned around, his smile died instantly. She didn't run. She didn't yell. She just stared, and that stare, it was like looking into the eye of a storm. Calm, deadly, unmoving. You touch him again, she said quietly, and I'll teach you how silence breaks bones. The tallest boy, Danny, laughed. Or what? You'll make a spark? Wrong move. She stepped forward once. Just once, Danny swung. She didn't dodge. She absorbed, pivoted, and snapped his elbow backwards with a movement so smooth it looked rehearsed. He dropped like a stone, screaming. The second guy tried to run. Didn't make it 2 steps. She grabbed his hoodie, spun him, and swept his leg from beneath him. His head bounced off the trash can behind him. Lights out. Only one left now. And he was begging. Please, please, we were just messing around. We didn't mean. She stepped closer, lifted Jesse's sketchbook from the ground, and held it in front of him. You destroyed his art, so I'll show you mine. Then she turned. Didn't lay another finger, because by then, it wasn't necessary. That night, Jesse told her everything. The bullying, the threats, the time he was locked in the janitor's closet for 2 hours while teachers just walked past and for the first time. She cried, not because of Jesse, because it reminded her of herself. She'd been Jesse once. Only difference was she never had someone to show up for her until now. She became that someone by the following Monday. Those boys didn't come to school. Rumors said their parents were involved. The principal was forced to launch an investigation, but no one snitched. Because everyone knew, she doesn't start fights. She finishes them. And Jesse? He started smiling again, laughing, drawing. He even started designing a comic book character based on her. Called it The Silent Storm, and the girl still wore that same hoodie, still walked alone, but now, when she passed by, even the bullies looked away. The comic Jesse drew went viral. He uploaded a few pages online. No names, no faces. Just art. A quiet girl in a hoodie, standing between shadows and the weak. He titled it, The Silent Storm. Thousands of people shared it. Some said it gave them courage. Some said it felt like their story. And one comment stood out. Whoever she is, tell her we see her. But while the internet cheered, trouble was quietly brewing. Not everyone liked her presence. especially not the school superintendent, who'd been getting complaints from powerful parents. Like Danny's dad, a lawyer, or Taylor's mom, still furious her daughter had been humiliated by a nobody. So they started digging. Discipline records, transfer files, family history. And that's when they found something. A sealed record, a fight, a hospital, a boy with 2 broken ribs, and a knife. The next morning, she was called to the office. Not by a teacher, by a man in a suit. "You've been involved in a prior incident. Care to explain?" She said nothing. "You broke a kid's ribs. That's not self-defense. That's assault." She stared through him. "You do it again, and we'll have no choice but to expel you." She walked out without a word, but her knuckles were clenched so tight they turned white. At afternoon, she skipped class. Jesse found her sitting on the rooftop. "What happened?" he asked. For a while, she didn't speak. Then she said, "There was this kid back in my old school. He tried to jump me behind the gym. Had a knife. I took him down. Hospitalized him. No one believed me. Said I went too far. So my grandpa pulled me out, said we'd start over. But it doesn't matter. They always find a way to punish the one who fights back." Jesse looked at her, really looked, and he said something she didn't expect. "Then maybe it's time they finally hear your story." That night, he uploaded the next comic issue. But this time, it wasn't fiction. It was her story. Real one. How she learned jiu-jitsu not for trophies, but because her mom had died protecting her from an abusive man. How her grandpa, a retired Marine, raised her to never fear darkness again. And how every time she fights, it's her way of never being helpless again. The post went viral overnight, and this time, people demanded answers. Why are schools protecting bullies? Why punish the defender? This girl is a hero. The superintendent's inbox exploded. News channels started calling, and her story was finally being heard. But just as things were turning around, Taylor came back. Taylor's return wasn't quiet. She walked in like she owned the hallways again. Chin high, designer boots, fake smile. But this time, no one clapped, no one followed. And when she passed the new girl's table, Jesse didn't even flinch. He just said, "She's back." The girl didn't look up. "I know." What no one knew was this. Taylor had been plotting. Her family's reputation was in the gutter. Her social status gone. Her college applications stained with disciplinary record. And in her world, there was only one way to fix that. Revenge. That Friday, she posted a confession video online. Fake tears. Lies about being bullied by the new girl. She even claimed she'd been threatened into silence. It was carefully edited. Cropped clips from old phone recordings. Enough to cast doubt. Enough for the school to send another warning to. The girl. One more incident. And you're gone. That night, Jesse paced. "She's trying to ruin you again. We need to fight back." The girl stood calm, still, her voice steady. Not with fists this time. Monday morning. Assembly. The auditorium was full. Students, teachers, even parents. The principal walked up with a folder in his hands, prepared to issue a formal notice of expulsion. But before he could speak, the girl stood up. She walked to the center of the stage. No mic. No notes. Just truth. You all know parts of my story. Some of you watched me fight back, but you've only seen what happened here. She turned to the principal. "May I show them everything?" He hesitated, then nodded. Jesse walked to the projector and loaded the final comic issue. It played like a movie. Frame by frame, it showed everything. Her mother protecting her. Her grandfather teaching her to fight. The attack behind her old school. The cafeteria humiliation. The rooftop talk. The pain. The silence. the strength Dot, and finally, it ended on a drawing of her, standing alone. But this time, she wasn't small. She stood tall, unshaken, with hundreds of shadows behind her, kids just like her. The lights came back on Dot's silence. Dot then. Someone stood. Dot then another. Then a teacher. Then the janitor. Then Jessie. Dot until the whole room was standing, even. The principal had tears in his eyes. Taylor? She tried to speak, but no one listened. The next day, her video was removed. The school issued an apology. The superintendent stepped down. Dot and the girl? She was offered a full scholarship to an elite martial arts academy. Not for fighting, for leading. She left the school the same way she came in, quiet, alone. But this time, they didn't call her Stray. They called her Storm. And long after she was gone, whenever a bully whispered, or a kid felt powerless, they remembered. There was once a girl who didn't bark back. She broke bones. She broke silence. And she changed everything.